How was the body transported from the field into the medical examiner's office? And I believe you said it was a cooler where they're stored.
They're at the scene. Our investigator brings with him, or her, in this case him, Mr. Leva brought a body transport bag with him, as well as a clean white flat sheet, like a bed sheet. So at the scene, once the documenting and everything is done, and it's time to remove the body, then the body is wrapped in the new clean white sheet and placed inside the body transport bag. It's zipped, it's sealed with sort of a zip tie, kind of a contraption that has a serial number on it. So the two zippers on the bag are brought together and sealed that way. Then that body inside the body transport bag is put on a gurney and then wheeled out to a waiting vehicle, usually a big van, big kind of box van. Body is placed in there and then transported, driven over to our office, and then unloaded from there and rolled into the building and put into the incoming tour.
Once you begin your medical evaluation, what is the first step that you take?
The first thing we do is we unzip the bag. That seems rather obvious, but we unfurl the top of it and we take what we call as-is photographs. And these are photographs to document the way the body appears as is when first viewed in our morgue. So obviously this is not as first viewed at the scene or anything like that, but this is as presented to me when I first opened the bag. And then from there, we remove medical paraphernalia, EKG leads, tubes, whatever may be on the body. We will collect any kind of trace evidence. If there's hairs, fibers, paint chips that may need collecting. As we go along, we're taking photographs to document all of this, and then we remove the jewelry, the clothing, those sorts of things, if any are present. Once we're done and we've collected all of the evidence we need, any kind of DNA swabs or fingernail clippings, then we will wash the body down to remove any kind of dirt, grass, debris, blood, whatever the case may be. Once we're done with that, we will begin our internal examination.
Approach, Your Honor.
Yes.
So I'm going to show you what has been marked as state's exhibits numbers 7, 27. Hang on, I apologize. I got him out of order. So, state's exhibit numbers 25. Apologize, Judge. 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35 for identification. If you would take a moment and look at those exhibits that were just named. Are they all part of the examination you performed?
Yes.
Now, the same thing with States Exhibits 36 through 43 for identification. Same question.
Yes.
In States 44 through 52 for identification. Then finally, States 26.
Yes.
Attended to the defense for inspection, States 25 through 35. States
No objection to 25 through 36.
States
All right, States Exhibits 25 through 35 are admitted without objection.
States 36 through 43 for identification.
Objection to 36 to 43.
You say to 43?
36 through 43.
All right, States Exhibits 36 through 43 is admitted without objection.
And finally, States 44 through 52 for identification.
No objections on 44 through 52. Judge.
All right, States Exhibits 44 through 52 are admitted without objection.
No. Doctor, on the bottom of page 1 of your report. You talked about, what did you find about the extremities?
I described them as being symmetric and normally formed, and the fingernails were intact.
Okay, and initially they came in, the hands were bagged, showing states 25. And why did, and I'm also presenting states 27 and 28. Why are the hands bagged?
The hands are covered in brown paper bags in order to preserve any kind of evidence, trace evidence that may be there on the hands. Often during transport, they brush against things as bodies are turned and moved. So in an effort to keep any kinds of hairs, fibers, or any other trace evidence that's on the hands, in order to keep them on the hands, we'll cover the hands with a paper bag so that if anything does fall off the hands, it is at least captured by the bag.
Okay. And then states 29.
This is a photograph of her left hand after the paper bag has been cut open, but it is still in place around her hand. In this photograph, it's just to show, again, sort of an as-is view of the hand when we first removed the bag.
That same thing with states 35.
Yes, sir. This is of the right hand.
Okay. At the bottom, you mentioned the fingernails are intact. States 30.
Yes, sir. This is a photograph of the left hand and specifically the third, fourth, and fifth fingers of the left hand. You can see the fingernails are intact, but this photograph does demonstrate some injuries to the dorsal surface or the back surface of those fingers.
And the injuries to the, is this what you're referring to?
That is one injury, yes, sir.
And from your general knowledge, what could cause that type of injury as you see on the third finger primarily of the left hand?
Well, yeah, actually, what we're seeing here, it's called the middle finger is the third finger. What's called the ring finger is the fourth finger. Specifically on the third and the fourth fingers, we see scrapes of the skin causing abrasions even on the inside of the fifth finger, a small little scrape here. And then there's a little bit of kind of a ecchymosis or hemorrhage in just beneath the skin on that fourth finger on the ring finger.
Okay. From your experience, doctor, what could cause that type of discoloration?
Hemorrhage beneath the skin.
What causes the hemorrhage beneath the skin?
A blunt impact of some sort. So either striking an object or a hard surface, a firm surface, or a firm surface or a hard object striking the hand. These are the kinds of injuries on fingers like this are often referred to as defensive type wounds, or the kinds of wounds that are sustained when somebody is sort of in a combat with another person.
Looking at states 34, excuse me. And do you see a similar type injury on the right hand?
I don't see any in this photo, no, sir.
Are the nails of the right hand intact?
They are. We can't see all the nails in this photograph, but they were intact during at the time of the autopsy. They have not been broken or splintered off or anything like that.
On stage 33.
This is back to the left hand that's primarily showing the thumb and that sort of edge of the second finger and that web space between the thumb and the second finger. No injuries here, and that thumbnail is intact.
Now, I apologize. I meant to go 31, the right hand. I'm sorry that, yeah, it's the right hand.
Sure, this is a photograph, similar view, but of the right hand, again, showing the thumb and that edge of the index finger and the space in between. And no particular injuries noted on the right hand.
Stage 32.
This is a sort of a palmar view. See that the fingers are still clenched over. This is on the right hand. Now you will note, if you look at the fingernails, this photograph was taken after we had trimmed the tips of the fingernails. So we used sterile clippers and cut those the fingernails back just as far as we can to get as much of the tips of those fingernails, collect them in a sterile packet and preserve them for potential studies, DNA studies, whatever may be needed on them. So you can see sort of the cut edges of those fingernails now, but that is a post-mortem or an after-death thing that we did. But this photograph shows that there's essentially no injuries to the palm of the right hand.
Thank you for correcting me on that, doctor. I did not mean to mislead, but your analysis, your report says when you first opened the bag, all the nails were still intact.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What else was, looking at page 2, the head and neck, what else was clearly apparent in your examination, cursory look?
Sure, as soon as beginning the exam, it was obvious that the decedent has sustained multiple traumatic injuries to the face and neck.
Can you describe them in particular with any specificity?
Sure. To the left eye, we sort of start beginning with the eyes. We see that there's hemorrhages on each of the eyes, on the eyelids. We look for petechial hemorrhages, and there were some hemorrhages on the left eye, subconjunctival, meaning that there were sort of so many petechial hemorrhages that they all ran together and appeared as one larger area of hemorrhage on the bulb of the eye, the bulbar conjunctiva. And then there were abundant fine and coarse, so small and sort of medium-sized pinpoint petechial hemorrhages that were scattered over the not only the bulbar conjunctiva, but the eyeball, but also on the underside of the eyelids, and we call that palpebral conjunctiva. The right eye had a few fine pink petechia on the eyeball itself and also on the eyelids, and not as many as on the left side. The forehead had a faint pink contusion that was sort of here at the hairline where the hair and the forehead meet on the upper left side. The nasal bridge was depressed, pressed inward with a obvious fracture. There was a small laceration right there over that fracture point, presumably from the fractured bones poking through. The inside lower part of the right eye had a pink contusion kind of in that recess of the right eye. There were some more abrasions, which are scrapes of the skin that kind of went off the right side of the nose. The underside of the tip of the nose had a small abrasion as well, a little scraping under there. And then the left side of the upper lip was split open, large laceration or tearing of the inside of the lip and what's called the vermilion border, sort of where the skin and the lip meet. Pretty much all of it was just shredded with a large degree of laceration. What else? The lower lip also had full thickness lacerations across that vermilion border and onto the inner surface. The medial right side of the chin had a red abrasion just below the lower lip. There was a perforating laceration that sort of pierced all the way through, not really the lip, but kind of a little higher. But it pierced all the way through into the oral cavity, kind of through the cheek. There were bruises across the right cheek at the angle of the mandible, the area just in front of the ear on the right side of the face had some abrasions that extended onto that right external ear. Abrasions meaning scrapes of the skin. What else? That was it as far as the external examination of the face.
All right, Doctor, and didn't want to try to interrupt you. I'm introducing what is publishing what's marked as States 42. And what's visible States 42? Does your report, is this on her left cheek? What is that?
That's well, you can see the skin there at the angle of the mandible has been scraped, but it's also very distorted and distended, swollen. That's swelling from trauma that's been inflicted to the face, and that's causing that big bulge on the left side of the face.
In your experience, what type of mechanism could cause that type of injury?
Sure, it's clear that there's been blunt impact to the face. So again, either a blunt object, and that's best to explain what a blunt object is by saying that it's not a sharp object like a knife, and it's not a bullet, not a gun, but it's a heavy object with a more or less dull surface, baseball bats, fists, boots, a variety of objects, either struck the face or her face struck an object, which could even include the floor as being an object that might be struck by the face.
And then the swelling around the left eye. Does that, from your experience, does that look like part of the same blow or separate?
Well, it's most likely separate blows. It's clear with this abrasion down there, the angle of the mandible, that's one impact site, and there's swelling there. But then the swelling around the eye seems to be a separate and distinct entity in and of itself. Plus, she's got the trauma to the eyeball and the eyelid as well, indicating a blow that went directly to the eye.
Okay. And your report mentions the nasal bridge is depressed and fractured. Is that what I'm circling here on the exhibit? Is that what you writing about?
Yes, sir. And you can see in this photograph the irregular contour of that nasal bridge, which is the part of the nose kind of between the eyebrows, just below there, between the eyes. You can see the irregularity. You can see the purple discoloration from the hemorrhage beneath the skin. You can see the laceration that is right over that fracture site.
I'm looking at, we're now publishing States 46. And what is States 46 showing?
The States 46 is a photograph taken from the front left side of the decedent's face. You can see the forceps and a gloved finger are holding the left upper eyelid up and reflecting it so as to show what is on the underside of that eyelid. We see areas of hemorrhage, especially medially or towards the nose, towards the midline on the upper eyelid. You could see the left eyeball itself, the orbital globe, the part that is usually white, the sclera, has been obliterated. There's no more white, but rather confluent hemorrhage there. You can also see on the to the left side of the photograph, you can see that laceration over the nasal fractures, the fractures of the nose again. And you can also appreciate the swelling on the inferior and lateral aspects of the left eye.
And when we spoke earlier about the blunt force trauma to the cheek and jaw, would that also cause what you see on the left eye?
Well, again, the swelling on the underside of the left eye certainly could be related to the same hemorrhage that is on the left eyeball itself from a direct trauma there. I believe that that's distinct and separate from the large swollen area on the left side of her face along the jawline.
States 45. It's more the same.
But yes, this time in this photograph, you see the forceps are reflecting the lower eyelid, so as to demonstrate the petechial hemorrhages, the tiny little fine pinpoint pink and red areas of hemorrhage on the underside of the lower eyelid in this photograph.
Now showing you states 44 and 47. What does your report say about 44 and 47, the right eye?
And these photographs are of the right eye. You see one is where the forceps are reflecting the lower eyelid, the other reflecting the upper eyelid to demonstrate the petechial hemorrhages on the underside, especially on the lower eyelid on the right side. Of course, you can also, again, see abrasions on the nasal bridge. You can see the nasal fractures and the laceration overlying those fractures.
But the petechia, and what is the definition of petechia?
A petechia is a small little area of hemorrhage caused by the rupture of a capillary. Capillaries, if you think of veins and arteries coming from different directions, and they gradually go from large to small, the veins and the arteries, and where they meet, and the vessel transitions from an artery carrying oxygen to a vein where it no longer has oxygen. That area where the oxygen is released to the tissue is in an area called capillary, and that's where the blood vessel is only one cell layer thick, maybe two cells thick, very thin walled, and that allows this exchange of oxygen out and waste in so that it can be transported. So when there is trauma, especially pressure put on the blood vessels that do not allow the blood to drain from those capillaries back through the veins, oftentimes because of compression, then we get rupture of those little thin walled capillaries. They're very delicate, and they will rupture when the pressure gets too high. You think of a water balloon that ruptures when it's overfilled, or a dam bursting through its barriers and then flooding out into the surrounding areas.
But the right eye looks, is that same mechanism of injury what you saw in the left eye?
Yes, in a general sense. So the left eye had the fine pink petechia scattered all over, plus larger areas of hemorrhage. Large areas of hemorrhage seem most likely to have come from a direct blow to the eye, whereas the fine petechia on the left eye and on the right eye were most likely associated with a compressive nature somewhere to the neck, upper body, that prevented drainage of blood from the head back to the body, causing